right, everyone. This is Jamie Keech here from the Resource Insider Podcast. It is Thursday, January 28th. Man, this week is flying. I actually thought it was Wednesday before I just looked at my phone there. It has been a crazy day, a crazy week, and I'm sitting here with none other than Tavi Costa from Crescat Capital. We're going to talk commodities, but we're going to talk mostly today about silver. It's been a bit of a wild space. It's been a bit of a wild day in the silver space. A lot is going on that I think you guys need to know about. So, Tavi, how's it going today, man?
Jamie, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm sitting with no one else than Jamie. So thanks for having me here, and look forward to talking to you.
Well, you and I have been talking about silver together for well over a year now. I think it was about a year ago we did a video with Real Vision on why silver, why now. It's looking like we might have been a few months early in that, but it's certainly the thesis is coming to fruition now. Where should we start? Because this is kind of an unusual day. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about the macro case for silver. But beyond that, there's a lot of strange things going on right now. There's a short squeeze going on with GameStop and Wall Street bets and all that, which is wild right now to watch from the outside. And then we're seeing that, I think, kind of coming into the silver space, particularly within First Majestic Silver, which shot up today on speculation of this. So, what's your view on this? What's going on here, man?
Like you said, it's overdue, right? It's overdue. The macro reasons behind silver and gold and precious metals and the miners has been there for a long time, and sometimes you need a different kind of unique catalyst to make things to start to work. And in terms of flows, there's so much room for this trade to move on, and we're at such a cheap levels. It kind of surprises me that silver still is sub $30 an ounce, and I'm sure surprises you as well. It's probably the biggest opportunity in the market today. When I think about asymmetry, that's where the asymmetry really is, opportunistically speaking. Silver is, like I said today, actually, silver is your highway from the old economy to the new economy. We're talking about electrifying the whole world, and copper is too. But the thing that copper doesn't have that silver does is this inflation hedge aspect to it, which on top of being one of the cheapest metals on earth. So it's been sound money for centuries. It's your hedge against central banks and monetary and fiscal imprudence. It's your hedge against corrupted governments. It's been manipulated for a long time. It may be manipulated even going forward. It will probably be, but it's in my view, it continues to be one of the best opportunities when we think about the alternatives out there. We're talking about GME, AMC, stocks in general, gold, Bitcoin. I suggest everyone to look at silver. I think that's the nirvana of them all. It's the OG, like they like to say in the trading names. I think it's the real deal. It's what from a macro and fundamental perspective, it's backed by so many reasons behind it.
Well, you mentioned GameStop, you mentioned AMC, what's happening today, and I'm just getting caught up on this morning like everybody else, but it looks like Robinhood and a couple other institutions are actually blocking people from being able to buy the stock, right? They're not able to search it. They're not able to buy it. I think some of them are still letting them sell it. But I mean, that's insane. Like, has there ever been a stronger case for precious metals and owning precious metals, physical metals, than actually seeing the institutions, and in this case, the apps, basically actively, blatantly manipulating the stock market? I mean, to me, what they're doing seems absolutely criminal. Like, how does this not end in a massive fucking class action lawsuit against these guys when you're hanging out to dry, basically normal people, normal traders, at the expense of the banks and the big funds and whatnot? It seems to me blatantly criminal. I just don't understand how this is able to happen.
Well, and for investors in the silver and precious metals market, I think that that has been the case for a long time, and we never had a real voice to express our concerns in a big way. And finally, we're seeing something in a completely different, somewhat business model, right? GME, AMC, all this short interest causing this short squeeze, and for me, the same dynamic of short squeeze will be created on the silver side from a supply and demand mismatch that we have, probably the largest in the history of gold and silver. And I think the whole financial markets are broken, and it's a product of all the monetary and fiscal policies we've seen throughout the years. We all knew that this was going to cause issues at some point. The question was when, and the unintended consequences of easy money policies, such as zero interest rates, negative interest rates. We welcome inflation. The hard, Jay Powell saying yesterday that the hard part about all is really the low inflation problem. I mean, really, we're getting used to statements like this, where there's a massive risk where commodities, hard assets are super undervalued. And if they begin to really rise in prices, that's going to create an inflection point for inflation. I think more and more investors are starting to see that cash is trash. The whole Ray Dalio phrase that became very famous. Yes, cash is trash, and is now coming to fruition, and investors are finally waking up to that whole thesis and looking for places where they can protect capital and grow capital. That's an opportunity for people to actually invest money in something that is, again, fundamentally makes sense, which is precious metals. But what I wanted to also mention is, from a supply perspective, it's just absurdly undervalued. We've had a 50% plus year on silver last year, as you know. And when you look at breakdown into silver producers, which is so hard to find a peer silver producer, CapEx is down 20+%. So from that side of things, I believe, hard assets are going to be probably going higher. It's going to create an inflection point for inflation. It's going to change cost of capital. It's going to change the way we value risky assets. And for investors in general, this is, I think this is an opportunity and so much room for growth. One thing I wanted to mention, I'm sorry for the long answer, but when you break down the financial assets in the whole population in the U.S., you look at the top 1% relative to the bottom 50%. The top 1% owns about 50 times what the bottom 50% owns in financial assets. So the whole, Robinhood traders, day traders, all those guys have a lot of work to do here to catch up to those levels. And the reason why they don't increase, one of the reasons is because most of them, the bottom 50%, most of their assets are sitting on real estate, while most of the assets across the top 1 percentile, the top 90 percentile, you name it, it's mostly on financial assets. I think those guys are finally waking up to the opportunity here. Unfortunately, they're buying stocks. A lot of them are buying stocks at record valuations, while they can buy, precious metals at record undervalued. That makes sense.
So let me ask you a question there, because you'd said earlier, you mentioned earlier that often these bull markets in commodities and mining, they're kind of they're instigated by a catalyst. Something happens, and then people kind of wake up to the value here. And, previously, in past cycles, we often see this catalyst in the form of a massive discovery, right? Whether it's Bre-X, whether it's Voisey's Bay, when it's any number of things, people see these massive billion-dollar plus discoveries that stock goes from nothing to $100+. Do you think maybe this time the catalyst might not be a physical discovery or mine, but an actual, financial shift, and maybe these traders at home waking up to the value of physical assets, particularly after what just happened today with GameStop and AMC and all the rest? Do you think that could be what we're looking for, where capital starts flowing into this space because of the frustration with the stock market and these sort of stocks and the manipulation going on there?
Certainly, I think you want to something Absolutely. And it's such a, a unique catalyst. I mean, who would have thought that retail investors would be the ones really driving all this? But, if you study the 70s, there were lines and lines of people trying to buy precious metals at those times, as well as a way of hedging against inflation. But the real macro story is what creates the opportunity for the long term.
Hmm.
When you look at the whole thing about twin deficits, twin deficits in the U.S. is and debt piling on government side. You got corporate debt at basically record levels. You got Russell 2000 in terms of debt has never been higher than this. So small caps are extremely levered. I think inflationary forces are like to continue to pick up because of commodity prices beginning to rise, because of hard assets beginning to rise, and fiscal profligacy is here to stay. We just had, as the other day I was talking about, the IMF calling for the Great Reset. You've had even Janet Yellen coming back. You've had Bernie Sanders, in place as well. For the budget committee, and there's so many reasons why politically and macro and fundamentally to push metal prices higher. And silver itself, as I said before, it's not only an industrial metal that has industrial properties, but also has a huge monetary properties too. And again, it goes back to, if you go look at silver relative to money supply near record lows, you go back in history. When you get to the level that we are of unlimited QE, of World War II type of government deficits, it's what creates this environment. And unfortunately, a lot of people are seeing the mix of fiscal and monetary policy as deflationary. I don't get that. And thinking we're looking back in a way and saying, hey, that actually didn't create inflation. That's just absurdly wrong in my view, because this time around, we're seeing wealth actually increasing, net worth of people are increasing. Obviously, inflation is increasing along with it, but backing away, we saw a massive, a brutal income loss, especially from the 50%. The bottom 50% lost 84% of their net worth backing away. 84%. This time, it was the largest annual increase in history during a recession. So, I think a lot of people are looking at money, especially money velocity and aging population issues and so forth, the debt problems, and saying, hey, it's going to be deflationary. I think everyone is absolutely wrong. I think everyone is fighting the last war. And again, I think when investors really realize this, I've always welcomed, hey, Robinhood traders, you're trading all this crowded names. Look at silver names that you, Jamie, put out all the time, silver and gold names in your own research.
Yeah, well, I mean, on
names.
that note, we just did a financing into Arcana Silver, great price, full warrant, 3 years. When I look at a deal like that, I get a full warrant for 3 years. I am as sure of anything I've ever been that silver is going to break $50 in the next 3 years. And that's as close to free money as you're going to get in this game. And, we've got another silver deal in the works right now, similar terms. And that's been a big focus of what we're doing. And I kind of want you to talk about that, because you mentioned earlier this discrepancy in this ratio between silver price and gold price. And can you talk a little bit about the significance of that right now?
Well, it's very significant. It's and again, props to you to being so early on this and building your whole business into not only a long-term macro trend that is likely to happen here, but also an opportunity that is so unique in terms of finding gold and silver underground, and really investing in that whole space that is so massively undervalued, even relative to silver and gold. And again, like you said, it's massively undervalued relative to silver and gold prices of today. Imagine if we are right and they do take off and we see silver at $50 an ounce. So the relative performance of gold and silver when you are at the early stages of the market of a bull market for gold, which I think we are. The big move starts with gold, not big move. Gold doesn't move that much really relative to other assets, but it's the giant that really moves the whole industry. And
Right.
you first have that, and then when people get confident with gold it's starting to move, you start seeing investors, go up on the risk curve. So then you start seeing silver moving and miners moving. But hey, last year GDX, the large miners, and I'm not saying here GDX is a great way to invest, but GDX underperformed gold. So that goes to show that if we were really taking off in this in the middle or so of a bull cycle here for gold, GDX would be up 3-4x what gold would.
Yeah, 100%. So, but I think it's worth to note, right? Like gold's broken all-time highs. It's settled, at around 1850, which at 1850, gold mines are churning out money, the big gold miners. Then we got copper, which is breaking 5-year highs. And then we have silver, which is still half of its historic highs. So, I mean, how does that gap, to me, in the entire metal space right now, there is no better asymmetric trade, more obvious asymmetric trade than silver. Because I mean, people say this all the time. It's not if, it's when. But I mean, God, it seems particularly blatant in this case to me.
Yeah, you have such a good point. I was just looking at a chart yesterday prior to this move today, which it's not going to change much of the picture. But in the last 6 months, silver has done nothing, has actually gone sideways. And how many negative narratives have we heard so far? That the silver doesn't deserve to be where it is. And for me, this is just a no-brainer type of trade. I don't know when it's going to happen. I have no crystal ball. I have no guarantee, nothing. I'm just saying, from a macro perspective and fundamental, it makes a lot of sense to at least own silver today, somewhat. And for me, it's people like to say it's financially irresponsible to not own Bitcoin. For me, it's financially irresponsible to not own silver. That is, like you just mentioned, the real asymmetry. And if you really want to go into where the real opportunity is, in my view, is an exploration side because of the mining space. I think we have a supply cliff issue in the upcoming years, and that's not going to be priced in quickly. It's a problem that the major producers are going to be looking for new deposits to expand their production lines. And as you are very aware of that, there's very few good projects out there in silver and gold, and those are going to get bid up. The ones that have high quality projects with very viable and economically speaking gold and silver projects are actually going to be bid up massively. And we saw Vizsla last year, as you were right on the front of the whole thing. We saw Eloro now, Eloro Resources in Bolivia, in absolutely straight line, vertically going up. There's a lot of names that are very attractive that you cover, that we ourselves cover too. And it's just it's just a tip, not a tip, but it's just a flavor of where I think the opportunity really is.
Yeah. All right, Tavi. Well, thank you very much for talking today. Guys, for everyone listening at home, check out Tavi Costa on Twitter. He does some of the best macro research. His ability to simplify complex ideas and charts is better than anyone I've ever seen in the mining and metal space. So do check it out. And of course, if you want to learn more about what we're doing at Resource Insider, if you want to get into our next silver deal, well, you got to become a Resource Insider member. So thanks for listening, guys. Tavi, thanks again. We got to get you back on here soon, although I know you're a very busy guy.
A huge pleasure. What a timing, huh? Thanks for having me, and look forward to the next few months. I think we're gonna have some interesting ones ahead.
I agree very wholeheartedly. All right, take care.